Well, this video didn't go as planned. So this video is supposed to be behind the scenes of an art show to take everybody along and just kind of show you a real world example of how it went. Well, it went too real. It was a bad art show. But, all that to say, I still filmed a lot and I think I'll make a good video, and I think this is actually a better idea than what I had originally. So, I'm going to take you behind the scenes of the art show with the prep and everything, still show you what it is, but also add in the side that it was a bad art show. We're all going to have bad art shows. It's unavoidable. And in fact, you're probably going to have more bad shows than you do good shows or great shows. The great shows are elusive. And when you find them, they may be great every year, but there's only so many of them. So anyways, this video is the real world version of behind the scenes at an art show. Alright, also, in terms of prep, check this out.
Look how good that came out.
I gotta unload this. Alright, but this has never actually happened. I've got a full kiln, very full. I've also got glaze work ready to go in. Behind that shelf there's a bunch more. So I've got a full kiln. I've got a whole nother kiln worth of stuff that's already glazed because the show is Saturday, today is Thursday night. It's a little bit later than I wanted, but the second kiln's gonna be smaller, so we hope it cools down. So that's what we do to get ready for a show. Last minute stuff, right? But seriously, it's also never happened because I also have 50 mugs that I threw that I'm putting handles on currently. So somehow I went from being chronically behind to all of a sudden I'm ahead. So I was trying to get caught back up with my wholesale, and so I was able to have all this extra stuff that you saw in that video just ready to go into the kiln. And then when I left the show, I came back and it was all ready, so then I could just throw it into the kiln and then keep moving forward with my production. So I used the time at the show to let everything dry out, so then I could just throw it into the kiln. But yeah, in terms of loading, we got everything loaded up the night before. It was pretty late. I don't think I finished loading the van till like around midnight. The show didn't start till late, so got up early, 4:30 in the morning. It's a beautiful drive through Glenwood Canyon. The show's in Glenwood Springs. It's just, the canyon there is just breathtaking. So I love doing that drive in the morning. I really hate doing it at night when I don't get to see the canyon. So for me, waking up at 4:30 wasn't that bad. Stopped and got some breakfast on the way. I didn't film any of the packaging. I feel like I've gone over that in a different video, but basically I just used the totes. I think I filmed something where you can see the van loaded up. The van's been a game changer. The video I did about the art shows, I had a truck, got the van last year, not long after I did that video, and it changed everything up. It was so awesome. So now I'm able to sleep in the van with all of my stuff packed. Knowing who the promoter is a really important part of an art show. Everybody kind of has their own way of doing things. Some promoters will provide snacks, booth sitters, everything and anything you would ever want. This show is not that show. And I knew that going in. But because of that, I got there really early. Like I said, I got up at 4:30 in the morning to drive here. This show is a weird one. It runs from 11 in the morning to 7 at night. And most of the time you stay open later because it's surrounded by all the restaurants and bars. And you want to catch people when they're not just waiting for a table, but when they're leaving. So I typically stay open till like 8 or 9. But know the promoter. Why is that important? Because I know this guy doesn't have the booths marked out ahead of time. So you kind of want to jockey for position. I also knew the weather was going to suck. I knew it was going to rain a lot on Saturday. So I wanted to be under the bridge. This show is very unique in that there's this massive bridge that covers a lot of the tents. But I got my spot under the bridge, and honestly, I got there early. I don't even know if I have a video of this, but I just posted up in my chair waiting for the promoter to get there. I don't want to talk bad about people online, but this guy just is very laid back, I'll say that. He doesn't go overboard on anything for his shows. I was just waiting around. Once he got there, I was like, hey, am I good to stay right here? This is pretty much where I was last year. The advantages of having done a show before, you get a little bit more grace. So I was like, yeah, can I set up here? Boom. I already had my van right there. It was kind of blocking where other tents were gonna go. I knew if I was one of the first people to get my spot, that'd be fine. I backed the van up, unloaded everything. Yeah, I was moving stuff maybe 10 feet from my van to where my tent was. So that made my unload probably twice. Maybe that probably saved me at least an hour. It's kind of funny, like while we're all waiting around, we kind of just talk. I got to see some of the other people I knew from years past. So I'm not a big fan of checking the weather, but it really helps when times like this. I had my rain jacket, I had everything off the floor, I knew it was gonna rain. It was sunny and gorgeous in the morning, and everybody's like, oh, I hope it doesn't rain. I'm like, it's gonna rain, because I've been checking the weather and it kept increasing. And I've also done this show for a few years, and it's rained every weekend. I don't know, it's just Memorial Day weekend, it's always gonna rain. The other advantage of getting there really early, I got there, like I said, right around 7 o'clock. Setup doesn't officially start till 8, but I just wanted to make sure I was first in line, pretty much. So, like I said, I got everything unloaded from the van really quick, threw it down, set up my tent. And if you haven't seen that video that I've done about my everything you need to know for an art show video, I go over a lot of what's in this tent. This is kind of the follow-up, but if you haven't checked that video out, I think it'll answer a lot of questions. So, got the tent set up, threw the weights on, just to make sure everything was safe, and then I got 85% of the way unloaded, and then I still had like 2 hours before the show started. So there's a coffee shop down the way that I really like going to, Bluebird Cafe. If you're ever in Glenwood Springs, they treat me right, and they also have a $5 cup of coffee that's bottomless, and they let me just walk back up during the show, so I can get a couple cups of coffee during the day, which is huge. So anyways, went up there, grabbed a burrito. Okay, you know we had to go get that breakfast. And some coffee, came back and set up the tent. And then the day started. Let's see how it went. We're all set up. I did change the booth around a little bit, but yeah, I had to move the mug tower over. Slightly nerve-wracking, I didn't want to unload it all, so I just had to take a few off and slide it over. Afraid some were gonna fall, but we made it through. And yeah, I mean, everything else is kind of just my traditional setup. That's why it helps to do the same setup or close to the same setup all the time, because then you just know where everything goes. Yeah, I mean, there was a couple hours on Saturday where I don't even think anybody came into my booth. It was that slow. Yeah, the rains were just crazy. Like, it would just blow through and it would just dump rain. And it was so cold. I was so glad to be under the bridge and just stay dry. I mean, look at these other people. Look at the wind.
Alright, today did not go as we hoped. The weather kind of screwed us, but we got it all unpacked, or at least put away, so if it gets wild, hopefully nothing breaks. So let's get ready to go rest for the night and start over tomorrow.
I always take everything off the shelves, put everything on the ground overnight, because I don't want any crazy wind to come through and tip my shelves over. And then that's why you want to have walls, because you want to be able to just zip up the walls, have your tent be nice and secure. This is just another example of why it's a really good idea to visit a show before you go. Because if you go to a show and it's really slow, one, you'll know, okay, that's a red flag. But two, the artists are going to be pretty chill. They're just going to be bored. They're going to be sitting around, so they're more likely to actually talk to you. If you're going to talk to artists at a show that you're not attending and you just want to find out information or ask them about their process, my best advice is to either do that first thing or make sure you do it in a way that you're not blocking anything in their booth. Go and stand to the side and talk to them and say, hey, I'd love to just ask you a few questions about the show, the promoter, etc. It doesn't have to be long, because if you ask 8 people, then you'll probably get a good feel for it. So it's always a great idea, if you can, if you're looking out next year, just go to different shows. I mean, one, it's cool to just see other people's stuff, and it's awesome to go to art shows where you don't actually have to be worried about anything. You just go and have fun. It also helps you just to see what people are selling, to see what other people in your niche are doing. If you're like me and you're doing pottery, you can kind of see what styles people have, and you can kind of just watch and see. I'll definitely creep on other potters. I'll be looking at them, I'll kind of go through and I'll see what they have, and then I'll go back later and see what's sold. And I'll just kind of like keep an eye on how people are coming through, if I see people with their bags, etc., etc. So, I don't know, that's just what I try to do. So the first day ended and I didn't stay super late. I probably stayed about an hour after, so the rain started going pretty hard on the first night. again around dinner, and the dinner crowds just weren't there. So a lot of people packed up. I stayed because I was like, what else am I gonna do? I'm just gonna go sit around. I was like, I'm just gonna sit here and hang out. And I think I made one sale, but you know, it's more money. That paid for my dinner. You know, it's more money than I would have made sitting in my car. And you're already there. You know, now if my wife had been with me, I probably would have been like, hey, let's just go out to dinner. So if you're with other people, sometimes you just cut your losses and be like, hey, let's just go have fun. But if it's just me, I'm like, all right, well, I'm gonna try to make some money. But anyways, so I stayed late, and then I was just like, you know what? I'm done with tonight. So this was me after that. I went and watched a movie, but yeah, you'll see.
All right, y'all. End of day one. If you can hear, it's raining. So we got a little leak.
Oh, leaking.
So we got a leak in the van. It's raining. It ended up raining all day. Sales were slow. Morale was low. But we persevered. Yeah, we made it through with about half the sales that I was hoping for today. Hoping tomorrow's better. We'll see. But that's how it is sometimes. You know, I signed up for this show last minute knowing it was going to rain. It rained way more than I thought it was going to rain, even still. And I think that the idea that it was going to rain this weekend was just kind of out there. So a lot of people knew it. So holiday, not a lot of people left Denver to come up to the mountains, knowing it was going to rain. So we'll see. We had a lot of people come by today and just be like, hey, are you guys open tomorrow? Will this be here tomorrow? I'm like, yeah, come on. So who knows? We'll see what happens. But yeah, end of day one. Just sat here, watched a movie, and chilled out in the van. But I got up at 4:30 in the morning, so I need to go to sleep. This is just how it is, you know? A life of an artist. The van's been amazing, despite the leaks. It's still pretty nice to have. I gotta get some sleep. I'm so tired.
So the first day, everybody's cold. They're just kind of like, what am I doing here? And I just stayed energetic, and it made a huge difference. I had several people be like, man, I'm so glad you were around my booth, because you were just happy. I mean, I had some of the worst sales. I didn't have the worst sales. Somebody beside me only sold like $9 the first day, and I felt really bad for them. But we were just keeping it light, you know, and that helped me a little bit, because I was like, okay, well, it could be worse. I was just keeping it energetic. People would come in, I'd still talk to them. I wouldn't be like, hello, Eeyore style. I mean, I look over at other artists, and they're just sitting there in the chair. They don't acknowledge people. They just say, oh yeah, okay, I guess if you want to buy something, come talk to me. And it just doesn't vibe with people when the energy's already low because it's bad weather day. People are coming in with that. And so you got to counteract that, bring them up. If you bring joy into even just the people who are walking around, they'll be like, oh, that was cool. I talked to several people that I was like, they're not even going to buy anything, but I'll just have a good conversation with you guys, because why not, you know? It's a slow day. Another thing I was really good at doing was telling people about the show. Knowing this promoter, knowing that a lot of the locals don't even know what's going on, I was like, man, I gotta tell people, hey, we're here tomorrow. People would come by on their bikes, they'd be like, I don't want to take anything, I'm on my bike. I'm like, don't worry, I'm here tomorrow. People would come and they'd say, oh, is this here every weekend? Nope. It's only this weekend. You know, give them that scarcity mindset. Because, I mean, these people that were asking me that, half of them weren't even from around there. So it's not like they were going to buy something next weekend anyways. So this is where the salesmanship comes in. You got to remind people, I'm only here for a little bit. If you want something you see, you got to get it. Some people understand that, you know, and you see it happen sometimes. Some of your bigger pieces, people come in, they look at it for a while, and they're like, and then they walk away, they come back later. Piece is sold, it's gone. You got to remind them, hey, listen, everything I make is handmade. It's going to be gone. Help sell your stuff. Sometimes it feels sleazy, but you're not really. If somebody, my goal is for people to buy stuff they enjoy. And if I can see somebody looking at me like, I really want that, I'm like, I want you to have it too. Because I want it to bring joy to your life. That's my whole goal with my pottery. It's supposed to be functional, so that everybody uses it, but it's like, it's nice, I like it. All right, we out here today. Gonna get it in. Okay, so Sunday was just way better. Like I said before, this show starts at 11 a.m. But people don't know that. It's in the middle of downtown. People are just walking around. So I have made it a habit of getting there early. I got there, I think, at like 8 o'clock in the morning. Went and had breakfast at that Bluebird Cafe again. Just look at the clouds. I watched the clouds rolling in over the mountain there, and it was just beautiful. And I had this really relaxing morning. Did some reading, and I just kind of hung out. And then at 9 o'clock, I went down and I started slowly setting the booth back up. Maybe like 10 o'clock, I made like 3 sales. Before everybody else was even open, I already had 3 sales. All right, so I'm just out here, got my morning routine, stamping the bags, get it going. We got set up. Already made 3 sales before we're even officially supposed to start. And after the day before, that was huge. So if you are at a show, it's okay for you to open early. Like, if you're just sitting around, just have your stuff set out. There's going to be people who are probably like, what's going on over here? And if they walk by, you can grab some sales. It also helps because other artists are walking around, and so they'll come by and they'll be like, hey, I wanted to check out your stuff yesterday, but it was busy. And they feel like since the show hasn't started yet, they're just going to hang out and look at your booth and probably buy something. Either way, it's a great time to make connections with other artists. The energy on Sunday was just completely different. I mean, not only was it sunny, but they had live music going on. So people were just way more energetic, and the mood and everything was just increased. And don't forget, don't be a jerk, especially to your other artists that are around you. And that plays out even more when the show is not very good, because you're just going to be stuck around these people, and if they don't like you, oh, it just sucks, because then you're just sitting around being like, oh, this is just really miserable. So be energetic, talk to people, engage with the people around you, and use that time to get to know other artists and say, hey, what other shows are you doing? And just kind of get some other info and network. You know, I think that's something that artists don't understand the importance of sometimes, is just like, you know, their business world, everybody likes to network. Oh yeah, you know, and it's like, because they know it will help them. It's the same thing with art. Just connect to the artists around you. They'll help you with talk about shows. I mean, I did a series of shows last year, and there's like a couple people that I met at those shows that I'm like, oh man, like I'll still talk to them. And we kind of became friends, but they also gave me a lot of really good advice. And they were like, oh, you should do this, you should do this. And oh, I probably wouldn't do this show if I was you. It's just not your market. And then that just saves you a bunch of time and energy, because you don't have to go and do that show and find out that it sucked. One of the craziest things I've experienced is repeat customers. When I've done a show multiple years, I have people come and they say, oh yeah, I bought stuff from you last year. I had somebody come, they were like, hey, we have 6 of your mugs at the house and we need some more. So they bought, I think, 4 more mugs, a bowl and a vase. But it was like, oh, that was a huge sale. And I had one guy, I recognized him. I was like, wait a second, I know you. I can't remember his name, but I recognize his face. And I've been at this show a couple years, and he's been there every time. And he's like, I've always bought something from you when you're here. And I was like, man, thanks for coming by. That's why sometimes it's nice just to have like little stuff that you can say, hey, why don't you grab one of these ramekins? Why don't you grab one of these? Or I've got these like little juice cups. Focus on this. Little juice cup, espresso cups, little sippers, whatever. People love them. But the thing is, if you have some repeat customers like that, I'll be like, hey, why don't you just take one of those? Thanks for supporting me over the years. And I forgot to do that to the one couple, and I felt really bad. So if you guys are watching this, you work at the restaurant beside me, I was like, dang, I meant to give you guys something for free because I just really appreciate you supporting me. So if you see this, hit me up and I'll send you something. If you watched my video on everything you need to set up for an art show, if you have a keen eye, you might have noticed that I added a checkout stand, and that thing's been awesome. This is the version 1. I did it for an indoor show last year, and it was awesome. Had a totally different setup for that, but now I just got to figure out a way to make it foldable and store better. And so when I do that, I'll make a tutorial on it, but that thing is sick. I mean, I have like different levels, so I can have my cash box, my bags, everything else in there. I can have food, I can have like extra packaging material, but it all fits in there, and it saves me so much space, and it just looks so much nicer. And on the front side, I have like info. I've got my name, Bearded Pottery. Another surprising thing is if you just simply put a sign up that says follow me on Instagram, I can't tell you how many people were just like, oh, I'm gonna follow you right now. I love your stuff. And they just pulled out their phone and followed me on Instagram. None of those people would have done it if I just didn't have this little tiny sign that says follow me on Instagram. crazy. So this is a 3-day show, but you can choose to not do all 3 days. For me, my schedule just didn't line up. I probably would have stayed on Monday, and I don't know, it was $100 more to do Monday. For me, I was like, whatever. I want to just enjoy a holiday. I'm gonna get caught up on some work, and then we were leaving a few days later to go on vacation. But yeah, you'll see here, I pack up everything and I just leave. I'm sure somebody would fill in my spot on Monday. But yeah, everybody else was still set up. They were ready to go. I did stay open later though on Saturday or on Sunday night. I don't know if I messed that up when I was talking about Sunday, Monday, whatever. But I stayed open later Sunday night, and I think I stayed open till like 9:30. And I made about $250 in sales in that extra 2.5 hours. So for me, it was totally worth it. I was just kind of hanging out. There was a few people that were staying open late. I was talking to them, and I was like, I'm not going to be here tomorrow. So I had a few people walk by, and they'd say things like, oh, is this here tomorrow? And I would just be like, nope, everybody else is, but not me. So if you want it, you got to buy it now. Again, scarcity mindset. And yeah, I mean, some people are like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm glad you told us. And so they would buy stuff. For me, it was worth it to stay open a couple hours later. It did push me back a little bit to when I got everything loaded up and drove home. Yeah, you can see I didn't quite make it all the way. I think it was 12:30 at night when I started to drive away from Glenwood Springs and had a 2.5 hour drive home. So that was gonna suck. Alright, and just like that, we out. I got it packed up. Here's where I used to be. Took me a little bit, but we got the van packed up. Now it's time to get out of here. Got 2.5 hours to drive home, but I gotta get the kiln going. So appreciate you watching it. Hopefully it was a good one. Everybody else is here tomorrow. That's why all the tents are still set up, but I'm out. Later. Yeah, I had to pull over. I was real tired. Now it's time to get going. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Either way, it was still an okay show for me. I ended up being like $800 short of my goal, but it's gonna happen. Important thing is just stay positive, keep grinding, do what you can to control what you can, and it'll usually work out. What's the worst show you've ever done? Throw it in the comments. Let me know. There's also a bunch of really good Facebook groups for artists that are, I think it's Art Show Reviews is a big one that I'm part of. And people leave comments in there about shows they've done, and you can find a lot of good info in there. If you want to know more about my setup, check out the video I did with the everything you need to know for an art show. And then if you've already seen that, man, check this out. It'd be pretty sick. But thanks for watching. Boom. Hit that like, subscribe, you know, do all them things, right? Yeah!